Hello, I'm Catherine. You'll probably see Brian pop into this video along the way, but this week's video is going to be a little different because we have a really bad forest fire quite close to us. So outside is very smoky, but inside our apartment is also surprisingly smoky. So we are going to run our air filter constantly, which is a little noisy. So instead of doing a conventional recipe video, I thought that I would dig into our pantry and cook some chickpeas and show you all the different ways that I use chickpeas in a week. And I've had a concept for this sort of video for a little while now, kind of all the ways I use a certain bean, all the ways I use lentils, all the ways I use tofu. So I thought this was a good time to test this out, and that way I don't have to go to the grocery store and limit time outdoors. Hopefully it might be interesting. If you're looking forward to it, then hit that subscribe button. Here's what we eat. And now I'm gonna go turn the air filter back on. I have a full-length video on YouTube for how to cook chickpeas from scratch, which I will link below for you, but I typically cook at least 3 cups of dried chickpeas at a time, which triples in size and becomes about 9 cups of cooked chickpeas. I give the chickpeas a rinse, and then I typically use the quick soak method, where you cover them in a few inches of water, boil them for 5 minutes, and then let them sit in the hot water for 1 hour to rehydrate. You can soak them overnight as well, but I'm usually not prepared enough for that. After the chickpeas have soaked and rehydrated, it's time to cook them. So I dump out that soaking liquid, give them another rinse, and cover them again in a few inches of cold water. Bring the chickpeas back to a boil and simmer them for typically 30 to 40 minutes. After 30 minutes, I add some salt and then carefully give them a taste to see how tender they are. Once they're tender, I remove them from the heat and I save that aquafaba, the cooking liquid, because I'm going to use it in a few recipes. To cool down the chickpeas, I give them a cold rinse and I typically spread them out on a sheet pan to continue to cool. At this point, I usually pick out those loose skins, but I remembered that one of you suggested using a salad spinner to loosen the skins. You cover the chickpeas with water, the skins float to the top, you can skim them off, and then drain the chickpeas and give them a spin to dry. This worked really well, but my salad spinner is pretty small, so I had to do this in 3 batches, and it probably would have been faster to just pick them out by hand. Let me know your preferred method in the comments. With my chickpeas cooked, I sealed them away in a Pyrex and put them in the fridge for later. I actually didn't get to using any that first day, so the next day I got to work. I was craving my super crunchy roasted chickpeas. These are a great snack and a great topping for salads or power bowls. I typically roast 3 cups of chickpeas, sprinkle them with just a tablespoon of oil, which helps them to crisp up, but you could make them oil-free, of course. Then it's just a bit of salt, pepper, garlic powder, and smoked paprika, or any other dry seasonings you like. I was still waiting for the oven to preheat to 400 Fahrenheit, so I thought I'd get started on some hummus too. There are so many things you can make with chickpeas, but hummus is a classic for a reason, so I nearly always make a batch. On the blog, I have a classic 5-minute hummus recipe, which uses 2 cups chickpeas, some of that aquafaba, the cooking liquid I reserved, tahini, and a few other seasonings. But today, I decided to add some sun-dried tomatoes. I make a sun-dried tomato lentil hummus using red lentils instead of chickpeas, and it's delicious. So I decided to make this batch a little combo of those 2 recipes. I'll link both for you in the description box below so you can give them a try. By the time I finished making the hummus, the oven was done preheating and in went the roasted chickpeas. And since the oven was on and I'd made hummus, I decided to also make a batch of my seed crackers. I know so many of you love these, and I still make them all the time because they come together really quickly. You just dump a bunch of different seeds in a bowl: flaxseed, chia seed, hemp hearts, sunflower seeds. Was I really going to put like 6 seeds back in the fridge? These measurements are a little flexible. Pumpkin seeds, a kiss from Brian, and sesame seeds. Then some oats or almond flour to help them bind, and some spices to season them. Now check this out, I was so in sync. I gave those a stir, and then my 20-minute timer went off for the roasted chickpeas, and I gave those a stir and put them back in the oven for another 5 minutes. Now, see that look on my face? That's me realizing that in 5 minutes the roasted chickpeas are done, but the key to that recipe is keeping the chickpeas in the oven once you turn the oven off. Keeping them in the hot oven as it cools is what really dries the chickpeas out and makes them really crunchy. I forgot that detail when I decided to start making my seed crackers, but new plan, the seed crackers will go in the air fryer. Crisis averted. I wasn't done thinking yet, though. I wondered if instead of using water for the seed crackers, I could use my reserved aquafaba. I honestly thought for a little too long about this. I knew it would be a good binder for the crackers because it makes a great egg substitute, but I wondered if the extra protein and starches would cause the crackers to burn too quickly. I was thinking I would split the batch and do half water and half aquafaba so I didn't potentially ruin all the crackers, but I decided to live on the wild side and just go for it. All those seeds just sit in the water, or in this case, aquafaba, for 10 minutes, and then they bind together to make a dough. I spread that out onto a lined sheet pan as thinly as possible, and since I'm making them in my air fryer convection oven, I'm working in 2 batches. Halfway through the baking time, I take them out and score the crackers. In an air fryer, it's a little faster. The crackers are done in 30 minutes, while in a conventional oven, they take 50 minutes. It turns out that the aquafaba worked perfectly. They did brown a little faster, so I ended up taking them out about 3 to 5 minutes earlier than usual, but they were crispy, they were golden, and they were even maybe a tiny bit tastier. Now, with all that prep work done, it was time for some lunch. Caesar wraps. I quickly grilled up some tofu, used that hummus to make my quick Caesar salad dressing, and built some wraps with the salad, the tofu, sun-dried tomato bacon bits, the crunchy roasted chickpeas instead of croutons, and some quick pickled red onion I had in the fridge. Fold them up and then seal the wraps on a hot pan. Handy tip. And enjoy. After lunch, when the rest of those roasted chickpeas were totally cool, I poured them into a glass jar for storage, but we snacked on a few more, of course. Now this is day 3, and usually if I don't use up my chickpeas in about 3 days, I freeze them. But I thought, why just freeze them when I could make a frozen treat with them? So I get working on my chickpea cookie dough bars. And this is essentially edible cookie dough with a big protein boost from chickpeas. I use dates and a bit of maple syrup to sweeten them, peanut butter for great flavor and creamy texture, oat flour to create a more cookie dough texture than a hummus texture, and typically chocolate chips, but you'll notice that I forget those. I pulse the mixture to break the chickpeas down and then process it until a ball of dough forms. I press the dough evenly into a lined baking pan. That parchment paper will help me lift the finished bars out of the pan. And just before I put them in the freezer, I realized my chocolate chip mistake. I was using the chocolate chip container to balance my phone while I filmed this, so I just pressed some of those chocolate chips into the dough and smooth it back out. That goes in the freezer for about 20 minutes to firm up, and then I pour on a layer of peanut butter, and I'll freeze it again for about an hour before adding the chocolate topping. All right, I have just about a cup of chickpeas left. So the final thing I'm gonna make with these is actually going to be the potato salad that we released on the channel a few weeks ago, because for lunch, I have some oyster mushrooms. So I want to make the Portuguese sandwich that's in our Portuguese ebook, and it's called bifana. It's super delicious, but it doesn't have a dominant protein source. So just to diversify our lunch a little bit more, I'll make this potato salad that has the chickpeas, it has a tahini dressing, and by the time we finish eating lunch, we'll be able to taste test our chickpea cookie dough bars. So this tahini dressing for the potato salad mixes tahini with pickle juice to create a tangy and creamy dressing that is a nice alternative to a mayo-based potato salad. I didn't have fresh lemons, so I used concentrated lemon juice today. I struggled with that little bit of celery salt, but not to worry, I had more in the pantry. I added some mustard powder, garlic powder, and black pepper, and then gave that a whisk to smoothly combine the dressing. Next, I add the chickpeas, chop up some celery, dice some red onion, and chop up a pickle. Then some fresh dill, or in this case dried dill, gives it all a refreshing and herby boost. Finally, toss the dressing with your cooked potatoes, garnish it all with some celery leaves, and serve it with something great like these veganized Portuguese bifanas. The oyster mushrooms are cooked in a white wine sauce with garlic and red pepper paste. Then caramelized onions are loaded on top, and the whole thing is served on a soft Portuguese bun. Okay, it's another day here, and we actually didn't taste test the chickpea bars yesterday because I didn't have time to put the fun chocolate topping on them. And I actually just threw the whole Pyrex in this reusable Ziploc bag. Now I've just melted a little bit of chocolate. Oh, that's hot. Chocolate on my stove. And I'm gonna put the topping on and put these back in the freezer, and then we'll be able to taste test them in like probably 15 minutes. Remember how I said that parchment paper lining would help me lift the finished bars from the tray? There it is in action. And now for a satisfying chocolate drizzle. Oh yeah, look at that. And it goes back in the freezer for just a few minutes so that chocolate can firm up. Once frozen, go ahead and slice up your bars. Admire your sneaky chickpea treat and give them a taste.
What are you doing?
I'm trying to, my hair keeps doing this thing.
It's cute.
Bangs. Like,
It's a little like summer curl. Little heat curl.
Oh, see? Anyways, we're gonna...
We tested these.
We tested
So
these.
the weather's finally nicer. The skies have cleared.
It doesn't smell like smoke in our apartment.
Yes. So everybody, we were, scary. But we're gonna eat some dessert to feel better.
Yeah, these little treats. Taste it. We haven't had these in a really long time.
Really long time.
See how chickpea-ish they taste?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Fun. I mean, they taste a little chickpea-y, but
They're mostly chickpeas.
yeah, I mean, what do you want?
So,
This is tasty though. And it's like, it's different.
a fun little snack. We've always found that they taste a little less chickpea-y when they're frozen, as opposed to keeping them in the fridge. But I've heard the opposite from other people who've made them, who said they prefer them in the fridge and not frozen. So let us know if you try these and what you think.
I really like these, especially in the summer. Warm day, it's like a nice cool treat.
They've been out for a little while, so the peanut butter's starting to melt a tiny bit with that. Makes it even better.
Yum.
Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this was interesting. All of the recipes will be linked below for you. Let us know what you try, what you make with your chickpeas. If you want to see this style of video with like lentils and
Tofu?
other, just like different ways that I tend to use these things in our day-to-day and to clean out our pantry and extend not going to the grocery store and that sort of thing. And yeah. Thanks for watching.
It's adorable.
Hit subscribe for my little bang curl.
Maybe that's like, that could be your trademark. Just one bang.
I can just rock it like a little bit of like an Elvis-y thing.
What's your best Elvis impression?
Goodbye.